Hello, 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 hello. It's Dennis, and this is All About English Live. I'm coming to you from beautiful South Korea this evening, and we don't appear to have anyone online at the moment. So give me a moment to finish getting myself set up here. We're going to have some. Yeah, as you can see, I have switched to a full screen view so that you can see my face more beautifully without all that black background. All right, maybe it's not that beautiful, but that's okay. Let me get ready here. We are talking today about a topic that was a special request from one of my clients in beautiful Taiwan, actually, believe it or not. And the topic is immigration, how to pass the customs and immigration interview, especially the immigration interview when you're going through customs. And let's be honest, let me see here. If you are tired of feeling like a little scared squirrel when you're going through customs or going through immigration while you're traveling, either for business or pleasure, if you're traveling internationally, you've got to go through that immigration's process. You've got to see the big burly guy with the questions. Sometimes it's not a big burly guy. It might be a small little guy or a nice lady or a woman or uh, you don't have to worry about who you're facing with, but we all have that fear when we're first going through customs. So today we're going to talk about, hey, how can I go through the airport immigration like I'm a boss? Okay, you're going to answer your questions without fear, full of confidence. And well, look, you've got nothing to be afraid of. We're going to talk about it today. I'm going to give you my ultimate guide for how to speak English like a pro in the customs and immigration interview. All right. So we're going to talk about some of the questions you're going to hear when you go through customs. If you didn't know already, my name is Dennis Wilborn, and I'm here to help you navigate through this crazy international travel world. I'm going to try throw in a little humor in there, give you some practical advice. And look, this show is perfect for professionals who are trying to up their English language game, especially if you're getting ready for international business travel. But if you're also traveling for personal reasons internationally, you're going to have to deal with a lot of the same problems, of the same kinds of questions. So today's episode, I'm going to give you a step-by-step process of how to prepare, why you even need to worry about it, and I'll teach you how to do it like a boss with swagger and confidence. And just think, uh, you know, once we get through this whole thing, you might think, wow, I got this in the bag. But stick around to the end because I'm going to give you some bonus tips on how to answer some uncommon questions that you might hear, and they might make you go, what? I didn't quite catch that. So get ready, pack your bags, grab your passport, get ready, and we're going to strut our stuff as we breeze through immigration while you're traveling internationally. So, if you do have any questions, I just ask that you save them for the end. Drop them in the chat. Let's see who's in the chat right now, because I'm very curious. Who's here? I don't know who's here. Anybody? Anybody? Oh, hello. Excuse me. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Excuse me. All right. Well, because I don't want this to go overly long like it did last time, we're just going to jump right into it. Let me present my slides. And here we go. This is how, well, let's see, where did I make sure I get that in there. Yeah, let's put it like that. Okay. So this is how to pass through customs and immigration just like a professional. I'm going to give you the step-by-step process to do just that. So as I said before, welcome to All About English. If you are terrified of going through that immigration interview, you are in the right place. And again, my name is Dennis Wilborn. We do a live show every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Korea time, 10 p.m. In Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, and many other places in Asia. And if you're not in Asia, you're going to have to figure that out. All right. But every Saturday night, you can catch me live right here. So, first question, why on earth do we prepare for the immigration questions to even begin with? Why are we wasting time with that? Well, there's a lot of good reasons. If you've ever traveled overseas, if you've ever been concerned about it, every time you go overseas, you have to go through the immigration, and they're going to ask you questions. They could be simple questions, and they could be very difficult questions. So why are we bothering to even prepare for how to answer those questions? Well, the simple answer is, if we don't bother, then who else is going to do it, right? Who's going to bother with it? So let's jump right in. Why are we preparing? Number one, not just why, but how we can prepare. The reason why we prepare is because you don't want to have any troubles. Look, you're going to be in line with all of these people. You just got off a long flight. You've been traveling maybe hours and hours. The longest flight I ever took was probably about, it was about 14 and a half hours. It was a long trip. You're tired. Everyone else is tired. And then you have to go stand in line and answer questions. You don't want to be wasting time. You want to just move right through. So that's the biggest thing that you want to worry about. Make sure that you are prepared so that you don't have to worry while you're going through. You don't want to be caught like a deer in the headlights, stuck waiting. I don't know how to answer this question. Trust me, I've been there. I've seen it happen. It's not a pretty sight. You've got all these people behind you. So don't let the language barrier make things worse. So to prepare yourself for the immigration questions, start by doing a little research about the country that you're visiting. Different countries have different immigration laws, and it's really, really important that you know what you're getting into. Okay? For example, in some countries, there are certain fruits and vegetables. Actually, most countries, you can't bring fruits or vegetables into the country. But there are other countries where they're very specific about which fruits and vegetables you're not allowed to bring. So it might be good to know that. If you are a big fan of the fruit durian, I don't know anybody is. If you're a big fan of the durian, make sure you leave a comment because I've got to know. I personally am not a big fan. There's a reason why those fruits are not allowed on most airlines, and that's not an immigration thing. That's more of an airline thing, because it's really stinky. It's so before you trying to sneak in your stash of apples or carrots or even seeds, sometimes make sure you know what the rules are before you go. And also another thing, you want to make sure you check and double check your documents. You really don't want to be caught without the right documents in your hands, because you know, if you're not ready, if you don't have something, usually they'll check to make sure you have everything before you even get on the plane when you leave. But when you get to the immigration desk, when they're starting to ask you questions, just have it in your hands. The cool thing, I used to just put everything inside my passport book and fold it up. That way I could just hand it to the inspector, the person who's asking questions, and they can take it out and look at it. It saves a whole lot of time. You don't want to be frantically searching through your bag, trying to find your passport while you've got a line of angry people lined up behind you. They're just, you know, you've seen them. You may have been those angry people. I'll never forget the time I traveled through Japan and I sat in immigration for the longest time. I've been through Japan many times, but I stood in the immigration line for over an hour because so many people were unprepared. Yeah, I was not a happy camper. It was really hot. It was really humid, just not fun. So now something you should know. When you do your research, you're going to get the questions. Practice, practice, practice. It's going to help you prepare and be even more ready to answer those questions. It will smooth out the entire process and make it easy. Preparation is the key to success when it comes to customs and immigration. So remember, do your research, gather your documents, and just generally make sure you're ready to go. All right. Next, we're going to go into the common immigration questions that you might get while you're traveling through immigration. Now, this is the part you've all been waiting for. What are the questions? What are the questions? I'm only going to cover the most common questions right here because let's face it, you're going to find that no matter what country you go to, almost all of these questions that I give you right now are very common. Doesn't matter. So let's make it like, okay, you don't want it to feel like it's a game show, but at the same time, you want to have a little fun with it. So the first question you're likely to get is, what is the purpose of your visit? They're going to ask you that on the little document that you fill out on the airplane, but they're also going to ask you in person because they're just double checking, right? This is the easy one, right? You just tell them, hey, well, I'm here for the local delicacies. I want to learn about the culture and I want to take plenty of selfies. No, nobody says that, right? You want to be honest and really straightforward about your plans. You don't have to give too many details. Say, I'm here for business or I'm here for a conference. I have a presentation to make for a business partner or something along those lines. Or if for a holiday, you say, well, I'm going to Disneyland or Disney World, or I'm going to visit my grandparents. You name it. You can find, just be honest with your answer. The next question that we have on the list is, how long are you planning to stay in the country? Just remember, no one likes a person who overstays their welcome, especially the government. All right. It's like staying too long at a party. It's just not right. It's not polite. It's like fish when they go bad. It's like, oh my gosh, it's stinky. No, I'm kidding. So make sure that you know in advance the length of your stay and be sure to communicate that confidently. You have a visa that was probably issued before you arrived. Now, if you don't know, like for example, you may not know exactly how long you're going to stay. It's very rare, but there have been times when I've come into a country and I didn't know how long I was going to stay. That's okay. You just say, I don't know exactly how long I'll be staying. It depends on my business, but I do have a place where I'll be staying. And that leads me to the next part. They're probably going to ask you about your accommodation plans. Okay. This one is very simple. Make sure you know where you are staying. And by that, I mean the address, the phone number, an email address. Don't let this one throw you off. Okay. Or you just may end up sleeping at the airport. Make sure you know where you're planning to stay. Otherwise, they're going to get a little suspicious. Make sure you can say, okay, I'm staying at this hotel for this many nights, or I'm staying with my brother-in-law or my sister-in-law or my aunt or my uncle, or I'm staying with my friend. Make sure they have a phone number of where they can contact you, an email address, or some way that they can reach out to you if they need to. That's going to be on the sheet. So you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. Okay. And oh, I forgot to change the slide. And the last question on the list is, do you have anything to declare? Do you have anything to declare? I remember my first time traveling overseas, I thought that this was going to be asked at the immigration counter. Not really at the immigration counter. It is usually asked at the customs desk. So if they don't ask you if you have anything to declare, then don't worry about it. However, they might ask you at the immigration desk so they can point you in the right direction. Because when you leave immigration, you're going to pick up your baggage, you're going to go, and that's where you'll meet the customs officer. They usually have something set up at the customs area. There's usually a place where you can go right out. I have nothing to declare, and you give your paperwork to the officer. If you want to make smooth travel, make sure you have nothing to declare. That's the best way, the best advice I have. If you do have something to declare, now things that you declare are listed. Again, you can do your research before you travel, but it's also listed on the document that you receive on the airplane. And the things that you declare are usually, again, fruits and vegetables, any food, any animals, any large valuable items like that are not for personal use, or maybe even if they're very valuable, like a laptop or a computer, you may have to declare, I have this thing. Probably not, though. If you're coming in with something that could be considered valuable, it could be tobacco or alcohol or things like that, you're probably going to have to declare that unless you bought it in the duty-free shop. If you buy it in duty-free, then you don't have to declare it. Okay. So there's a line for nothing to declare. There's another line for something to declare. And usually there's a bin or a trash can or a box. If you have something that you forgot or you packed by mistake, you don't wish to declare it, because if you declare it, you usually have to pay not a fine, but like a tariff on it, or a tax. If you don't want to pay the tax, but you don't want to declare it, you can usually put that thing in the box. So there you go. That's another option. All right, let's move on to how you can prepare to answer your immigration questions. How are you going to do it? I don't know. How do you do it? How are you today? So some just simple advice. This is common sense. A lot of this stuff is real common sense. Don't be a bobblehead. Ding, ding, ding. You know what I mean? The bobblehead, the person who just nods. Because if you're a nodder or a bobblehead, it means that you're perceived as someone who maybe you don't understand what they're saying. And it's possible you don't understand. If you don't understand, you don't want to just be the agreeable type and be, oh yeah, yeah. If you don't understand something, you need to say to the officer or the person there, I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. Could you repeat that, please? Don't ever be afraid to say, I don't understand, because that's really key to being able to move forward or move through those situations. Just be honest. I'll get down to the honesty part. No, number 2, don't be a chatty Cathy. Oh, I have been in an airport line and watched while one person stood in front of an immigration officer for more than 10 minutes. And it didn't look like they were having a very serious conversation. It looked like they were old friends catching up on the old times, giggling and laughing and things. Listen, the immigration officers might be very helpful and friendly. Be helpful and friendly, but remember, there are other people waiting behind you and they want to go about their day. So while you should be helpful and friendly, you're not here to make small talk and show off your sparkling personality. You're there to answer the questions, move on. So make sure you keep your answers short, sweet, and to the point. Okay? Just like a candy bar, except without regret later on. Okay? All right. Next one. Do. Here's what you do. Here's what you should make sure you do. Make sure that you are honest. Be honest with every answer. If you feel honest and concise, okay? If you feel like you have to lie to the immigration officer or that you have something to hide, these folks are trained to notice that, okay? They're trained to notice if you're dishonest, if you're not telling the truth. So the best thing in the world, if you're not sure about the answer, just go back with a question and ask them. Say, I don't really understand what you mean by the question. Can you repeat it, please? Or say, I don't know if I'm doing this thing correctly. Can you help me? They're very, very helpful. Immigrations officers are there to help you at the same time as make sure that you are following all of the rules. So be honest, be concise, but also be confident. Okay. That is another thing. I didn't put it on the slide, but I'm going to mention it right now. You want to be confident when you are talking to them. If you are nervous, if you are shaking, if you are concerned, they will see that. Let me just pull this out so you can see. They're going to notice if you are nervous or unsure of yourself, and it doesn't help your situation because it's just going to make you appear suspicious to them. It makes it look like you're trying to hide something. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're friendly, you're honest, and you're very concise with your answers, and you'll do really well. So while you shouldn't be a chatty Cathy, blah, 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 Still try to be friendly. That's why I put, how are you? Now, how are you? How are you is a great thing to start your conversation with. Because remember, these workers, they are there all day long, 8 or more hours a day. They are, they have to see hundreds of people every day. Start off your conversation, put them in a good mood by asking them how they are. Show that you have a little concern for them, and they will treat you very well. Okay. All right. Okay. Not excuse me says, excuse me says, not for me. Everyone I met, they were super serious. Oh, super serious. Yeah. Sometimes you get those super serious people. Again, that's why it's really helpful to start off with, hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Let them know that you're happy to see them. Let them know that they are a person, not just a another machine in the, or another cog in the machine, right? All right, let's go into our bonus. Uncommon questions that are going to be asked. You might hear. These are not questions you're guaranteed to hear, but you may be asked these questions. And I just want you to be prepared for if you do. So, question number one, how much money are you carrying? There's two reasons why they ask you this question. It may seem like they're invading your privacy, but number one, it's very important to the government that's coming in or that you're attending. Excuse me. It's very important to the country that you are visiting to make sure that you have, one, enough money to be able to support yourself during your stay. And so that's one of the reasons why they ask you that question. Another reason why they ask is because they want to make sure you're not carrying too much money into the country. You know, a lot of illegal activities happen through cash and things that are untraceable. So there are limits to the amount of cash and cash value you can take in. I believe that internationally, the limit is something like 10,000 US dollars is the limit that you're allowed to bring in. And that could be the value of jewelry, the value of cash, I don't think personal electronics are counted, but I don't know. So you want to be honest right up front with that one. You can say, well, look, sir, I'm carrying $2,000 in cash. Ooh, I hope you're not carrying $2,000 in cash. Maybe traveler's checks. And say that I have additional funds on my credit card or additional funds available on my credit card. Me personally, I used to travel when I first started traveling. I always made sure to carry cash and traveler's checks. As I got more and more experience traveling, I just found that it was much easier to carry a credit card or a debit card that was had an international acceptance and just get cash in the country where I was visiting. It's just easier that way. And you'll find that you don't even have to answer that question. You say, I have all my funds available on my credit card. I've got $100 cash in my wallet, and that's about it. So don't worry about that question. The next question you might get is, are you carrying any contraband? Ooh. Hopefully the answer is, no, I'm not carrying any contraband, officer. This it may sound like a strange question out of a detective movie or an action movie or something, but look, immigration officers are obligated to ask that occasionally. I honestly, to be honest, I don't know why they ask, because if a criminal is carrying contraband, they're not going to say, yes, I'm carrying contraband, officer. I've never imagined in a million years, are you carrying any contraband? No. They're going to say no, most likely. But that's why they have dogs. So what is contraband? Contraband is anything that is not allowed in the country. It could be drugs, especially drugs, or weapons, knives or guns and things like that. Those are all contraband. So I'm sure you are not going to have to worry about that, but just be aware you may get the question. Yeah, especially if you're big, hulky dude wearing leather and things like that. They may just double check. And be aware, I have made this mistake in the past, and I have known people who have made the mistake in the past. If you have a tool like a pocket knife, that counts as contraband, even if it's in your checked baggage. So well, it could, depending on what country you're going to. If you're going to America or something, it's usually not contraband if it's in your luggage. But just be advised, It could be bullets. I knew a hunter who carried his hunting bag to another country, and they found a spent shell casing from his hunting rounds, and it was empty. It wasn't going to hurt anyone, but boy, did they raise quite a fuss about that. So it may seem like a bit much, but they're really just trying to double check. All right. That is a wrap for everything I have to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of All About English Live and that you feel more confident about your ability to ace your next immigration interview. Remember, being prepared, staying confident, and practicing are the main keys to success here. And don't forget to join me every Saturday night for fun, interactive episodes just like this one. And if you're haven't already, be sure to like this video, subscribe, share with your friends, and leave a comment. If I'm about to answer your comments here in just a second. Tell me what you thought of today's show. And until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and that's all. Let's Uh-oh, I hope I didn't get all choppy there. All right, let's jump into some of the questions I have. All right, Mandy, welcome. I'm glad you made it, even though it says you were a little late, but that's all right. Okay. Mandy says, but it's okay. She says, well, what happened to my screen there? All right, Mandy says, but it's okay that I still have the money of my own country in my wallet, right? Yes, absolutely. If you go to another country and you have money from your own country, they don't care about that as long as it's not $10,000 worth. If you have $10,000 worth of your own money, that's probably not a good idea. They may not like that very much. So because what you can do is you can either keep your own money in your wallet or take it to the counter and exchange it for the local currency. You'll probably end up having to pay a lot more money for the exchange. That's the other reason. I learned that very quickly. If I just go to a local ATM, as long as my credit card works there, I can just beep, beep, take money out and it's no issue. But you need to make sure that, number one, it is a global ATM. If it's a global ATM that accepts your card, like a Visa, MasterCard, I think they got a Plus network and all the different networks, make sure that your network is available. One simple trick that you'll definitely want to ensure before you travel overseas, always, always, always tell your bank. Call your bank. Yeah, if you can call them on the phone or if they have a way to do it online, but I prefer just to call them and just say, hi, this is Dennis. I'm calling about account number 123456789, and I want to ensure that you're aware I will be traveling out of the country from this date to this date. I'll be going to this country and this country and this country, if you're going to more countries, and make sure that I can use my card in all of those countries. Okay. And you wait for them to say, okay. And he's okay. Thanks very much. Beep. All right. Just like that. And that is one of my secrets. I highly recommend that when you travel overseas, double check with your bank to make sure that you can even do that. Okay. Very important. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. I do want to point out one more thing. I should have mentioned it earlier when we were talking about making sure you have your paperwork and doing your research. After COVID-19, some rules changed. I've noticed that since 21, 22, 23, I'm hearing more and more about rule changes, especially with regards to visas. Okay. Well, I'm glad that Mandy, I'm glad that was a bonus for you. So here's an extra bonus. Really be sure that you double check all of the rules and all of the paperwork requirements before you travel out of the country. I made the mistake once, not me personally, but my wife and I traveled to the United States actually before we got married, and there was a requirement for a special. It's not a special visa because the visa was guaranteed by the country because of the agreement between Korea and the United States. However, there is a special requirement that you have to declare. I forget what the form is called. You have to make a special declaration before you travel. It's very simple. You just log on to the website. I think you have to pay at the time, I think it was $15 or $20. You pay that. That way you have you ensure that the United States knows that you're coming to visit. And I made that mistake with my wife, and we almost missed our flight because you have to have that documentation before they will even check you in for the plane. So double check that before you do any international travel. Okay. And really, that is all that I have for today. So unless we have any more questions, anybody? Anyone? Anyone? All right. Well, I'm really happy that you joined me today, Mandy. Excuse me. Anyone else in the chat that I missed? Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you either in class or I'll see you next weekend. Have a great week. Bye-bye.